right. Let's get this together. All right. Peace and shalom, family. Peace and shalom. It's your brother DivineProspect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and we are live on another Freestyle Friday. Okay. Now, this Freestyle Friday, we're probably going to rock for about 2 hours. I'm trying to keep the Freestyle Friday to about 2 hours. When we start our light work session during the day, that's going to be around an hour or two as well. I don't want to make it too extensive. I want to make sure that, we give updates and we hit on some questions and or bring something out and be able to close out in a reasonable amount of time. So that way it's easily consumable by those who the video is being shared with. All right. So I want to say Shabbat Shalom to those of you keeping the Shabbat on today, on this evening. Those of you keeping it tomorrow, from sunrise to sunset. Shalom. Those who are watching the replay, shalom. Appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining us. All right. We're going to give a couple of shout outs in a second, give you some updates, do a couple of Q&As, and we in business. All right. Well, one thing I want to share that I've been reading as of late. I am a member of the Society of Biblical Literature, and they send us these journals periodically, right? It's called the Journal of Biblical Literature. And they got some interesting articles in here. One is R.H. Charles in Modern Biblical Studies. The one is Reading the Blood Plague, Exodus chapter 7, verses 14 and 25, the hermeneutics of a composite text. Other one is Writing as a Source of Ritual Authority, the High Priest's Body as a Priestly Text in the Tabernacle Building Story, Humor in the Midst of Tragedy, the Comic Visitation of 1 Samuel chapters 4 to 6, Sex, Scandal, and the Politics of David's Throne. That one was really good. Isaiah 39 and the Motif of Human Trust in 1 Isaiah, the Greek in Daniel 3, Code Switching, Not Loan Words, Let the Nations Sing Hallelujah, the influence of the Egyptian Hallel on the citation of Psalms 117, OG in Mark 12, 10 to 11. That was another good one as well. The syntactic flexibility of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33b, and demonic faith and demonic wisdom in James, a response to Kenneth M. Wilson. All right, so I get tons of material like this that I read all the time that got some phenomenal content in it, sheds light and insight on various subject matters pertaining to the text. And I think it's very rich to, to widening or broadening the horizon of your understanding of the text. Obviously, the Ruach's guidance is essential and foundational, but it should not stop there, right? A foundation by itself is not a house. So you got to build on top of that foundation, right? And I encourage all of you guys to do the same. And that is why we have a Patreon page, because it is a repository of tons of articles and books and all other types of resources and exclusive content to get you girded up for this journey that we call life. Okay, tons of content on there. Teach you more about your culture, the history, the language, and other things going on like textual criticism, so you can understand how that works. Comparative cultural analysis, looking at it amongst other sister cultures in the ancient Near Eastern background, etc. Okay, so these things are all important. So make sure that you guys are taking a look at things, reading these things, because you never want anything to catch you unawares, because it could be that very thing at that very moment when you're going through stuff to drive you away from this truth, right? And we don't want that, right? So the more educated you are, the more insightful you are, the more ruach that you have, the more hokmah that you possess, which is wisdom, right? So it's one thing to gather all the information. The other thing is, how do you rightfully apply it so you can yield the intended results consistently? It has to be repeatable results to know that it is something that is effective and that it actually works. You have to be able to apply this knowledge to solve problems, not just problems in your mind of trying to figure things out textual wise, but also how do you apply it to solve problems in the real world? And that one-to-one mapping, that transition from looking at the text within its context of its history, language, and customs and manners, and see how that applies to 2022. That's called the one-to-one mapping. You have two different domains. One is the domain of the past, one is the domain of the present. After you understand everything in its context in the past, how do you then line that up with what's going on now so you know how it applies, how to execute it, and how to yield repeatable results. That's important. Okay. All right. So with that said, we got a couple of people already in the room. So let's go ahead and give a couple of shout outs. All right. Let's see. Shout out to Malak Y, Shalom, J Rod, Sonia Wright, Lady Watt, Tyrell John, Jay Fierson, Kevin Powell, Leader Lisa Anderson, Zakaya, Zafri Matthews, Excel McKinley, Shay Brooks, Shalom, Yah Asantawa, daughter of Zion, Shalom, Kevin Powell, came through to A2L this past Thursday. Want to stop by and visit, but tornado warnings made me keep pushing through. Yeah, I don't blame you. We had a crazy storm come through here. I think it was Wednesday and Thursday. It was crazy. Wednesday was really crazy, and Thursday was the follow-up from Wednesday's storm. And yeah, we had tornado warnings and all types of stuff that make you say, yo, let's hunker down in the basement and ride this thing out. That's how crazy these warnings were. But I'm glad you were safe, my brother. I'm glad you're all right, and I think you used wisdom and made the best decision. So I'll see you next time that you are in ATL, no problem. Shout out to Yvette Rivera, HaKodesh Management, Shalom, Ramal Yahu, Remarkable Ministries, Shalom, Haram Abif, Shalom, Truth Seeker, Shalom, Kaya Houston, Shalom, Signs of the Times TV, HQ, Shalom, Renzo Robertson, Shalom King. All right. And I think that's everybody for now. If you want a shout out, definitely leave a comment in the chat and I'll give you a shout out. I appreciate all y'all for being here at 12:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, rocking with us. Okay. Now, as you can see, I'm a little laid back. That's because I am tired. I ain't gonna front. This has been a long week. But a lot of things are coming up next week and in the future. So I'm gonna share some of that with you guys so you have a heads up on what's coming your way. Shout out to Talmi Halika, Shalom. Andre Waverez, Shalom. Let me see. So Tyrell John says, I'll be receiving an official offer for position in the federal government doing multimedia production. They keep talking about COVID possibly holding me up. I will do a religious exemption. Thoughts? Yeah, just click the link. Now the link for the religious exemption is not in this description. You have to go to a previous Freestyle Friday and you'll see it in the description. So look for the Freestyle Friday about not last Friday, Friday before that we went live. I have that link in the description that you can click on and we can hook you up with that. I just got word from 4 other people that religious exemption letters that we did for them about a month or 2 ago have been successful. Our success rate is phenomenal. And not just the religious exemption, we also offer religious accommodation letters. Those of you who want to keep these upcoming feast days and who need the Shabbat off, we have a letter for you. Those of you who need to wear your beards and fringes for religious purposes, we have a letter for you. Now, if you want to access any of these letters, just click on the link in the description below and follow the instructions and we'll hook you up. All right. So yeah, my brother Tyrell John, you can either shoot us an email or click the link in the previous Freestyle Friday and we'll get you started with that. No problem. Shout out to Nicholas Gonzalez in the building. Shalom King. Shalom to Rebirth of a Nation. What happened Tuesday? I'm not sure what happened Tuesday, my brother. I apologize if something was missed. But definitely email me by the end of the show, and then I'll follow up with you on Monday, or I'll have my assistant follow up with you on Monday and try to figure out what occurred and why we didn't get up, my brother. So I do apologize for that if something was missed. It was not intentional, but I look forward to speaking to you soon, okay? All right. No problem, Tyrell. No problem. All right. Shout out to Gurney Mosley in the building. Shalom, shalom. All right, guys, make sure as you're coming on in, if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button and go back and check out the archives. Hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the content. So that way the YouTube algorithm can grab this video and push it to the top of the charts. And also share this video on all social media platforms so we can get all of our people involved with the information that we're about to break down on tonight and get them empowered, educated, equipped, and enlightened, as we go along this journey. Shout out to my brother V Brand in the building. KHM New York is in the building. What's going on, King? All right. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and get started, family. Let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to give you some heads up. So first and foremost, to show you guys know, next week My entire calendar is blocked out. So if you're looking for a public consultation, not public consultation, excuse me, if you're looking for a private consultation, my schedule is blocked off for next week. The reason for that is that Monday at 9 a.m. I'm starting a new work contract. So I got kind of get adjusted to kind of see what my schedule is going to look like, what the workload is going to look like, etc., before I can open up slots again the following week, so I can start taking more private consultation calls or appointments. So next week, the whole week is blocked off. I need to get acclimated at this new role. And then from there, the following week, I'll be able to open up slots once I'm able to see what that workload and schedule and availability looks like. And then I can go ahead and speak with the people, right? Which I enjoy doing. Takes up majority of my time, but that's what ministry is about, right? It's serving the people outside of YouTube land. And the problem is we have too many quote unquote mores that all they want to do is teach in front of the screen. As soon as the screen goes off, they don't want to be bothered with you unless you're trying to donate or you're trying to buy something from them. You know what I'm saying? So it's really fascinating where we're at in regards to this walk and people who don't want to be bothered with helping people in real life after the screen goes off. It's really, really crazy, really crazy. And I think that if they call themselves a more a teacher, whatever, they need to be available to serve the community offline. All right. And maybe that may just be me, but it is what it is. All right. All right. So I just want to give you a heads up. That's what's going on with me next week. Also, I'm going to secure another work contract, because I work via IT contracts. So I'll be securing another one in the next couple of weeks on top of the one that I'm started on Monday. But don't fret. It's not going to be so overwhelming that, I'm exhausted and burnt out and I can't do Freestyle Friday, or I can't do light work sessions during the day, or I can't post content, or I can't add to the Patreon. That is always my priority. So no matter what happens, I will always produce content, be available, whether online or offline, to continue to serve the community. Okay. But I need this to help me with my time management, as well as to bring in additional revenue that I can then inject into other projects that we want to do for KHM and for the DivineProspect brand. So we got a lot of stuff coming up and it requires money. KHM MG, which is Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, our music group. We want to launch that, and we have several more programs and services that we want to offer to the community. We just got a new project manager, subject matter expert on our team that's going to help us get things more focused. The calendar will be released next week. It will be up next week. So please keep an eye on the community tab for the link for you to get a copy of it, and also to be posted on the Patreon. If you have the Patreon, you will get it at no cost, no additional donation, anything like that. However, if you're getting it outside of Patreon, it will be a $10 donation that we request in order for us to relinquish the calendar to you, so we can raise these funds, create more programs and services, employ more people, part of the organization, provide stipends and financial assistance to those who are in need, and also have a backup pool of financial resources for our members and auxiliary members who may need financial care and assistance. Okay. All right. All right. So Tyrell John said, are you still coming to Houston? I remember you saying early April. No, we wanted to do Houston third week of May. So third week of May is what we're aiming for Houston, but I cannot say that definitively. What I can say is that April 30th, we will be having our KHM chapter launch, as well as a Passover Seder. So make sure, if you are in Atlanta, or if you're not in Atlanta and you're part of the KHM team, or if you're not part of the KHM team, right? Set your calendar for April 30th, all right, from 6 to 10. We have that place to lock down. We will have our chapter launch for Atlanta officially, and then we'll also have our Passover Seder into first day of unleavened bread. All right. So we secured the venue. Right now, we're securing a caterer. So the venue is already secured. So the date is already locked down. We have the address and everything like that. However, we're still trying to lock down the caterer. Once we get catering taken care of next week, then we'll have the link available for you guys to click on so you can RSVP. We only have 60 slots. All right. I've been getting tons of people hitting me up, part of KHM and outside of KHM, saying they want to come. I just want to let you know, it's first come, first serve. We have 60 slots. RSVP as soon as possible, because once you lock your slot in, you're good. But if you don't get to click that link in time, then, once we hit the 60 max, we can't accommodate anybody else. But we're trying to run this as a pilot, kind of see how things go, where the interest is at. So next year, we're going to do a grand ballroom, so that way we'll have up to 250 to 300 slots available for next year. All right. So we're trying to see how it goes this year with 60. And if it goes well, then we'll have a 200, 250 slot RSVP for the following year. Okay. So that is definitely what's going down in Atlanta. So April 30th. If you are in Atlanta, great. If not, and you want to come through to our Passover event and our chapter launch to kind of see how we get down, there's your opportunity to do so. All right. So it's definitive for April 30th. No matter what happens, we will be there April 30th. So stay tuned for the flyer coming up and the link for the RSVP, so you guys can definitely sign up and come out and join us and have a great time with us out here in Atlanta. All right. Okay. So also we have the KHM survey that's in the link in the description. The link in the description below, KHM survey. Please click that link. Everybody that's watching live, watching on the replay, when this video is over, please click that link and fill out the survey, because we're trying to do some quantitative research to gather and collect data from you guys, so we know how to best serve you with our marketing campaigns coming up. So we know what kind of content to provide, what kind of services to offer, etc. But we need you to click that link in the description below and go through it. Shouldn't take no more than a couple of minutes. All right. So a couple of minutes of your time is worth it, because if you're following this channel, you're part of the ministry, the organization, you're connected to us in some way, shape, or form. We want to make sure that everybody benefits. And the only way we could do that is to know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what are your thoughts are, right? So that's why that survey is in the link below. So please click that link down below and fill out that survey. All right. Okay. So also, let me grab this real quick. Okay. Let me grab this real quick. All right. So we have several of these going out. This is our cast and lot set. So we had several orders that went through. All right. And we will be sending you these cast and lot stones, flat stones, so you guys can get busy with the culture. If you want to know how this works, there's a video. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and give you the video. Let me grab the video real quick. Drop the video. All right, so all right, here's the link right here. You want to click that link, and in that video, I show you how to use this cast and lot set. But these will be going out next week. So thank you to everybody that patronizes. If you want one for yourself, click the link in the description below. It says Pre-Exilic Israelite Lot Set. Click that link. Take care of what you see on that screen that loads up, and then we'll go ahead and send you out one of these sets. So I got about 10 of them that I need to send out. So thank you to everybody who patronized us in regards to that. So those will be going out next week. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy your set. And again, watch that video and it'll be able to show you. Okay. All right. So shout out to PB&J. Says, I have a question about Passover. I'm vegan. So do I have to eat lamb and bitter herb for the holiday? Well, according to the instructions in Shemot chapter 12 of Exodus 12, you should eat lamb. Like me, I avoid red meat, but I do eat lamb on Passover. If any other day, I eat it on that day for Passover, but I typically do not eat red meat at all, right? But I make that exception on that one day. And if detox needs to be done, I have the supplements to do so. So it's really not a big deal at all. But for somebody who is a vegan, and you want to engage in Passover, you can get imitation lamb meat. They do have vegan imitation lamb meat that you can purchase, and the consistency and the flavor tastes just like real lamb, right? So you can do that as well, because I know most people, when they do get their lamb, cannot afford to go through all the rites and ritual necessary to ensure that the lamb is kosher, right? So if you're getting imitation lamb meat, it's almost equivalent to the lamb meat that we use ourselves for the Pesach or Passover, okay? So hopefully that answers your question. Definitely you can look it up online and you'll see. I don't know where you live, but if you look it up online, you can definitely find out where imitation lamb meat is sold in your area, right? Vegan branded. Okay, hopefully that helps. All right, shout out to Melanin Queen in the building. Shalom, sis. Shout out to Get Wise. Shalom. Let me see. Shout out to Gavin Miller. I see you. Shalom. Ernest Higgs. Shalom. Levi Tribe. Did you hear about the newly discovered flooded lead tablet from Mount Ebal? Cursed tablet? If so, what are your thoughts? Yes, I've seen it. I am thoroughly familiar with it because I'm part of that organization. And I do get constant updates about that. So I learned about it before they did the press conference online. I knew about it. I've been following that archaeological dig for about 2 years, 3 years. In 2019 is when I first heard the preliminaries about it, and then I saw them do the press conference recently on it. So yes, I'm familiar with it. It's supposed to be in a Proto-Sinaitic script, and it says "curse, curse, curse" by Yahweh or Yod He Wav. And it's these folded small little tablets. It was believed to have been used by a lead device, skinny lead device, almost like we call a lead pen that you use to make the incisions or to draw the actual images. However, the reason why I have not said anything publicly on it because I'm waiting for the article to be published this summer, see what the peer review is, and then from there I will speak on it, right? So that's why I've not incorporated that in any of my scholarship. I've not spoken about it publicly because I'm waiting for the academic element to be completed first, and then once that's done, then I will speak openly about it. All right, so hopefully that addresses that. All right, shout out to the Most High Child Shaya Rala in the building. Shalom, what's going on, Chris? Shout out to AJ Bethia. Shalom, King. I see you. Let me see. Is that everybody? Is that everybody? Let me see. Anybody else? Thank you so much, my brother Get Wise, for the donation. I'm just tuning in, but will Passover event be for just on day, hour, the weekend? For just one day on the weekend? I think is that if that's what you're saying, it'll be April 30th, which is Saturday. So it'll only be on that day. So we only be having it on that Saturday. We will be live streaming it and or recording it and then posting a live stream afterwards. I'm not sure. Depends on what the signal looks like at the venue. I'm not sure yet, but it'll be accessible for you to watch afterwards, but it's nothing like physically being here. So don't use the fact that we're going to post a video, and we may not even post a full video. I may just post highlights of the video, right? As an excuse not to come. If you can come, please be there and join us. And again, everything is definitive once you see a flyer and a link. All right. So those will be coming soon. All right. Shout out to Zeph in the building. I see you. Shalom. Let me see. Yes, I wish you could make it too, sis. If you can't, I truly understand that. Don't sweat it. It's okay. Thank you for being there as a support system. You, your mom, your stepdad, at the debate this past weekend. I truly appreciate that. But again, if we do live stream, it'll be a private live stream. So that means if all the RSVPs are filled up and you still want to watch it, we'll have the live stream available in some way, shape, or form. At least for our members, KHM members, regardless what the quality is. But if it's public, I want to make sure the quality is top notch. Otherwise, we're just going to record it, put a portion of it together, and just share it with you. All right. All right. Shout out to Dave Thomas in the building. I see you. Shalom. What's going on? BGESQ in the building. What up, my G? Peace to you, King. What's going on? Stacks 2296 in the building. I see you. What's going on, King? I missed you out in New York the last 2 times I was out there. Hopefully the next time I go, I'll be able to see you, my brother. Shout out to Feed the Spirit. I see you. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much, Dave Thomas, for that. I appreciate that. We're trying to do what we can to move the community in the right direction. So let me get into the rest of the updates, and then from there we'll transition. So now also last year we had I put up a video of me wearing this shirt here. Right, let me show it to y'all. Take a look at it. Hold on. All right. So these shirts, we actually have them for sale. If you want to purchase one of these shirts in time for Easter, that's coming up not this Sunday, next Sunday, click the link in the description below and get you one of these t-shirts. This is fire. Make sure you wear it on Easter. You ain't got to say a word. Just put it on and just wear it. All right. So it's called Cancel Resurrection Sunday t-shirts, or Jesus Didn't Resurrect on Sunday t-shirt. So you'll see that link in the description below if you want to cop one for yourself. All right. Shout out to Will Ben here. Shalom. Let's see. So shout out to Stevie Mikhail K. Key, thank you for sharing that, my brother. Can we get promote chapter members going into the chapter groups and signing up? Yes, so that is supposed to be handled by the administration team. I'm not sure where they're at in that process, but you can reach out. So Sister Santua is there, so you can reach out to her and, her or Gail, and they'll be able to assist you, my brother, in getting that project taken care of. All right, so we do need to fill all those groups with all the members that came out, people who have signed up, who was official. If you don't see them all there, Stephen, then, reach out to administration. They can assist with that. Thank you for taking charge of our KHM Raleigh chapter. I appreciate that, my brother. So if he's looking for lots, Asantua, the link is in the description below. Have them click on the link in the description below. Shout out to Stanley Fields in the building. Appreciate you, Elder. Shout out to Tex Gaming. Exodus 8 tells us what Passover was for, and it doesn't have anything to do with sin. Who was that comment for? I'd like to know who that comment was for. Let me know what that's for. Shout out to Mariah. Shalom. Ramal Yahoo says, since I'm the ultimate troll to paganism, I will be buying that shirt. You funny. Let me see. Warfare says, if you wear that in a church, just as an exclamation, won't be responsible for verbal assault. Definitely. Now, shout out to the Black App in the building. I see you. Shalom. So Zeph, yes, but you have to balance that out with somebody like a Daniel B. Wallace, a Michael J. Kruger, somebody like that. But yes, he is an expert in the field, and that's what he does. But I don't just use him solely. I have to balance him out with some other people who are also experts in the field, like Michael J. Kruger and Dan Wallace, etc. So read some of their material along with his to kind of give holistic perspective and insight into textual criticism. Okay, and if you're trying to look for a textual criticist for what we call the Tanakh, then Emmanuel Tov is going to be the best source for that. All right. Let's see. Oh, I see. I understand what you're saying, Tex. I understand what you're saying. I think I got what you're saying, my brother. No problem. I think I got what you're saying. All right. So Larry says, is circumcision required to attend the Passover? Well, if you want to be literal according to the text, that's what they were instructed to do. However, being that we are in exile and in captivity, it is understood that there are certain rights that we are unfortunately unable to keep or have not kept, meaning that we should have been circumcised on the 8th day. I was not circumcised on the 8th day by my parents. However, I was circumcised before I was released from the hospital. So I am circumcised, but not according to the custom in the scriptures. So because we are in captivity, there are exceptions to the rule, and it's understood if, unfortunately, we are not 100% in alignment with the customs that are prescribed to us in the cultural mandates of the text. So if you do want to attend the Pesach and you are not circumcised, you are still welcome to come. Again, as a grown man, if you are considering circumcision, there are a lot of medical benefits to do so. I actually did a lecture called A Cut Above where I mentioned that. Matter of fact, let me put that link in the description below so you can kind of see what I have shared in regards to circumcision. All right, so click on this link right here. Go back and check out that lecture. And in there, I touch on the medical benefits of being circumcised. But hopefully that answers your question. All right. All right. Let me see. So Talmud, if you want some lots, just click on the link in the description below. If you have not already clicked that link before, click on that link and we will send it out to you. Okay, if you haven't done it already. All right. Shabbat shalom to my brother Scott Garrett Headley in the building. Shalom. You said he doesn't have Hebrew context. Well, that's not true. Actually, Bart Ehrman is one of the few scholars in that field that does give priority to the early Jewish Christian followers and the primacy of Aramaic, at least when it comes to the book of Matthew and some other Aramaisms throughout the Synoptic Gospels and the Gospel of John. So he does touch on some of that. Matter of fact, he has a whole lecture series on YouTube where he touches on the importance of Aramaic, understand Aramaic, and that, Jesus would have been speaking Aramaic, and some scholars say it would have been the Galilean dialect of Aramaic that he would have been speaking, and Bart Ehrman is in alignment with that, right? So he does push that. But remember, he's not a ancient Near Eastern scholar, he's a New Testament scholar. Like, that's where his expertise is at. Like me, my expertise is in the ancient Near East and ancient piece of Israelite culture against its Eastern Near Eastern background. So that's why I mention a lot of things that are Hebraic and things that are Semitic and things that pertain to the Afro-Asiatic language family and people groups that spoke that language, etc. Right? So, Ramal Yahoo, if you're interested in purchasing garments, email me, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. You'll see it scrolling across the screen below. Just email me there, and we can figure out how we can get that set up for you. Okay. Shabbat shalom to Will Ben here. I see you. I think I got everybody. Okay. So we're moving along. That's good. Okay. All right. So we also shout out to my brother DB. Helped me to secure a video production company, a group that is part of the Israelite community, and they have a studio video production team. They do high quality work. We will be entering into a contract working with those brothers soon. So the quality that you see on this channel will improve by 1,000. All right. So I'm so grateful because now they have a studio that I can go and film our Patreon series, such as Incognito, Death to Dogma, and Let's Talk About It. Right. That'll be done in a professional studio with post-production effects and graphics and all of that on there, color correction, color grading, all that fun stuff on there. So we're going to have some high quality content on this channel very soon. And that's the thing about me. I'm a perfectionist. Sometimes there's a lot of things that I possibly could do myself, but because that's not my expertise, I get disappointed that it's not the quality that I want. And I just pray to the Most High that he sends the right people my way, so that way I can produce the type of quality that I would want to watch. Right. And I just want to give y'all anything. I actually want to give you things that is highly polished. And now, thank you, Yah, for answering my prayer. He has brought forth a group, and this is what they do. And they're Israelites, and they're professional, and it's a wrap. They're going to help me out with the reality show. We're going to do a pilot program, a pilot episode or web series. We're going to do a web series, but we're going to do a pilot episode this summer. We're going to shoot it this summer. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and if so, then we'll extend it to a 6-part series that we're going to do. And I know you guys going to enjoy it, but we just need your feedback on that so that way we can continue to do that. It's another reason why I'm picking up these work contracts, because I want to make sure that I'm investing everything that I'm getting back into the ministry, right? I want to get nothing short of professionalism. There's a tentative event that I will be a part of this month. And I'll tell you about that in a second. And then another one in August out in LA. That one in LA in August is going to be this huge event that's going to have a bunch of comedians and other people from the entertainment industry that's going to be there. And I'm going to be given a slot to actually speak truth to them. It's going to be fascinating. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff brewing. Just hold your horses. You'll see. You got a lot of things brewing. When I was in New York this past weekend, as y'all know, there was this big debate between Malik Zulu Shabazz and Captain Tazariak. Can we trust Africa? Can we trust the Bible? Right? I think that is an asinine topic for a debate. It's too broad, and it's just, to me, I got the middle ground. You know what I'm saying? So, I was just like, well, I don't even know why we even having something like that. I couldn't even debate that on either way, because I'd have to have somebody with a more polarized position than I do. But nonetheless, that's what went down. I made sure that I was there to patronize my brothers and sisters in both communities. And in doing so, I had to build, sit down. I actually had a great sit down with my Israelite brothers. Shout out to ISUPK. I sat down with those brothers. It was very hospitable. Shout out to Captain Tazariak. I had a great time sitting down with them. Shout out to Katazar. Shout out to Magan from LOY and his brother, Priest Ya'ala. All those brothers, we all went and we went to Corner Shosha on 126th Street in Harlem, and we had a great meal. And then after that was done and those brothers left, I actually worked with, shout out to Zaab of LOY, helped him do portions of his Karagma documentary. So he picked up some footage there. I interviewed a couple of people there for him. We captured that footage and it was good. And then after all of that was done, then I had to sit down with Malik Zulu Shabazz. Before I did that, Sanada interviewed me. And then after that interview, I had to sit down with Malik Zulu Shabazz. After we had a discussion, I asked him a couple of questions and we had to build. And then he was impressed by the things that I was saying, which I'm like, well, you know, if Sanada's platform was less biased, you know, you'd have more content like this from Israelite community. But, you know, it's biased. It's all about the Bible all the time. And all this other stuff is more than just talking about the Bible. How about the actual execution and application of the principles in the text that are fixing problems in the Black community today? And when you go back and check that out, if you're on the Patreon, you already seen it because it's already loaded on the Patreon. If you're not on the Patreon, it's out there on YouTube land. You can take a look at it. But needless to say, he wants to book me for an event April 17th out here in Atlanta. It's called the Black Power Hip Hop. It's a Black Power Hip Hop event, right? So they have different people in the Black conscious community that are hip hop artists is going to be performing, and then they're going to have rap and hip hop artists from the industry there, and he wants me to speak to them. So he's giving me a slot April 17th to speak. All praise to the Most High, Yah. All praise to the Most High. So for those of you who don't know, today is Shabbat. So next Sunday is actually Easter. So I think that's Easter, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it's Easter, if I'm not mistaken. But that Sunday, the 17th, if all goes well, because right now we're securing, you know, what the theme is and, you know, what he wants me to speak on, what can I say, whatever the case may be. Once all of that is settled behind closed doors, I will be there at that event. And like I said, it's going to be a wrap. Listen, the best and worst thing that can happen, worst thing for those in the secular world that's trying to keep us out of the limelight, and best thing that can happen on behalf of the Israelite community is giving me a spotlight in front of the secular community. That's like the best thing for our community, and the worst thing for the secular world is for me to be in a spotlight, because I'm going to speak straight truth. The last time I did that was at the Foundational Black Americans event out here in Atlanta that was set up by Tariq Nasheed. And I was one of the opening speakers. Unfortunately, because I was added on late, I was one of the opening speakers. That video is actually up on this channel, so you can go back and check it out. And I was talking, but again, they gave me less than 15 minutes. I think I had like 12, 13 minutes to talk. My time was cut short and I wasn't able to fully go in. But these next two events, my time will not be cut. All praise to the Most High. People came up to me and say, yo, man, I like what you were talking about. So it's looking at my red, black, and green fringes, looking at the 10 Commandments, you know, necklace that I got on, asking questions about being an Israelite. You don't always have to preach to people to bring them to the truth. You could just speak real. And people gravitate towards that. Real recognize real. Real attracts real. So you put the truth out there. You speak direct, straightforward to things that people are experiencing day to day in their everyday lives in 2022, right? But you add that Israelite cultural paradigm into the mix. And when you put all of that together, it's a nice little package that they're willing to receive and open up and take in, right? So again, you don't always have to preach down people's throat or do A, B, and C. Some cases, some scenarios will call for that. Some won't do that. You got to walk circumspectly. You got to be wise as serpent, harmless as doves. So there's ways that you got to maneuver, right? Whenever you're given that opportunity or that limelight to preach the truth to the people, right? So I think sometimes we fail at that because some of us are trying to beat people over the head with truth that people have not been, their hearts haven't even been softened to receive, right? So again, thank the Most High for these two opportunities and 3 more that's on the table coming up this year to speak to entertainers, celebrities, politicians, etc. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And again, this is why we get into contract with this video production company, because we want all of our stuff to look polished between now and that time so we can build an extensive portfolio and do even more. So all praise to the Most High, man. I thank all you guys for your support. Okay. All right. So I think that's everything there for that. So the Patreon, www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. If you want to support what we're doing at KHM, you want to support the things that I teach, the academic resources and other resources and exclusive content that's available, please sign up for our Patreon, www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. You'll see it scrolling across here, and get in touch with a repository of tons of data that's going to equip and educate you in this walk. All right. So that's the best way you can support this channel, support me, and support all the endeavors that we're doing on behalf of the Israelite community and on behalf of the Most High Yah. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So Talmud, sure. But I think for that event on the 17th, they already have it booked. Matter of fact, they already have a flyer out. Right. So I think they're already booked for that. So for something like that, we would create our own event, right? Once we get enough momentum, we'll do our own event that's open to the general public to bring them in, not just to our community, bring them in so that we can entertain them and they can be enlightened with the truth. All right. So I got you, my brother. Shout out to Yechiz Zeke Yahu Ben Yehuda. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I see the QIYYAHU. Interesting why you have the IY, the Chirik Yud before the Yahoo. Interesting. But Ezekiel or Yahu Ben Yehuda, Shalom. Yoel Ben Israel, Shalom to you, my brother. TG9 Deuce. What's going on, King? You said what side of town? What side of town for what? The event? Is that what you're talking about, my brother? Let me know. Shout out to Dennis McMillian. Shalom. What's going on, King? All right. So that sober-mindedness and sharp eye for truth and scripture is what won me here. Such a blessing. I started to feel on this walk. Everyone seems polarized to an extreme. My spirit says no. I hear you, King. I hear you, my brother. You're right. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, everybody is reached much differently, right? So we have to make sure as a community, right, we have ambassadors and diplomats that have a variety of ways to disseminate truth, right? And they know tact and diplomacy and how to handle situations, various ethnic groups, people groups, demographics, and know what to say when to say it in order for us to get the message of who we are and what we're trying to execute in this society. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 7. It says, for us to what? Seek the peace of the city and intervene on its behalf before the Most High Yah, for in his peace you shall have peace. So we need to seek the peace of the city. That's our job while we're in captivity, or what some of y'all call Babylon, modern day Babylon. Shout out to D. Will in the building. I see you. Shalom, Mac. Hashtag Ados Lee. Shalom. Sister V Love. I see you, sis. Shalom. Shalom. All right, family. As y'all coming in, hit those thumbs up. Hit those thumbs up. As you're coming on in, hit those thumbs up. We're going to rock out for about another hour, 15 minutes. Shout out to Larry for the donation. Thank you, King. Shalom to you as well. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you guys for keeping this ministry alive. I'm forever indebted to y'all, and I do appreciate all the support that y'all are giving through the Patreon, through the YouTube, through the miscellaneous donations, for patronizing our products, services, goods, etc. I mean, we have the best supporters for KHM, man. I cannot ask for anything more. Yah has greatly opened up the storehouse of Shemayim, and he has poured out abundantly to KHM. And we're going to continue to strive to do what we can in the community. And again, despite if we agree or disagree with a group or brother or whatever, if you got an event, we will be there. And when I say we, not just other people, I will be there. You'll see me tapped in here. Oh, Divine is here. Oh, Divine is here. Yeah, I'm there. At my own expense, making a sacrifice, I'm there to support our community. If there's an event and I know about it in time and I can make it, I'm there. Even if I'm not invited, just show up. The worst they can say is, oh, you're not invited. It's okay, just go home. But thankfully, that has not happened. And for the most part, I've been invited. I just uploaded a clip of that Valley of the Salt, that WWE like heavyweight Hebrew wrestling. Man, I put a 2-minute clip up. I got more footage, but it's all over. If you could check over the web, it's all over the YouTube or whatever case may be from Sakari. But that was a very entertaining event, man. I gotta say that was entertaining. And if you or somebody you know, children, family members, friends, peers, associate, whatever, likes wrestling, that was phenomenal. That was something very unique. I enjoyed it. My kids enjoyed it. We had a great time, man. And righteousness, man, you know, and there was brothers that performed as well. And it was an excellent event, man. Excellent event, man. So hats off to those brothers that put that event together, man. I truly appreciated it. And shout out to Sakari because I went and supported those brothers as well. You know what I'm saying? So, you said, what side of town will the hip hop event be? So let me see if I can show you. Let me see if I can grab the flyer for you real quick. Hold on. Let me see if I can get the flyer. Where is that flyer? All right, hold on. I'll get it for you right now. Hold on, so you can see the details of that. All right. This is it right here. NB, New Black Panther Party presents a 2022 Black Power Hip Hop Showcase, Atlanta, Saturday, April 16th. Oh, what just happened? Just went to something else on my feed. It keeps flashing to my feed. What's going on? Hold on. All right, here we go. Let me not touch that. It is Savannah Art Center, 4849 Old National Highway, College Park, Georgia. There you go. Black Power Hip Hop Competition. Judges Bun B from UGK. Chairman Malik Zulu Shabazz and Barry Kelly. Oh, Daryl Kelly. All right, and here's the other artist that's going to be there, people that's going to be there. I know it's not that clear, but I'll post this flyer up on the community section so you can see the details of that. All right. And you can go to www.blackpowermovement.org to get more details. Okay. All right. Dennis McMillan, did you email Jubilee Manumission? Jubilee Manumission at gmail.com. That is actually in the description below, so you can copy and paste that email into your email client of choice and shoot us an email so that way we can assist. Okay. J Rod said, what are the Patreon levels? Okay, let me show that to you. No problem. Let's go in, take a look. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, here it is. So we have our Emerald class, Ruby class, Diamond class, and also our Platinum class. So for the Emerald, here's all the benefits. All you got to do is go to the www.patreon.com/DivineProspect and expand out the benefits, and you'll see all the benefits here for each one of these tiers. I'm not going to read through all of it, but just go to the page and you'll be able to see that. All right, just go to the page and you'll be able to see that. All right. Okay. Okay, I'll look into that, Dennis, and see what's going on. Because I know that there was some new stuff that came in that we'd have to take a look at. So I'll go ahead and take a look at that and see what's going on. Please forward right now, forward your request again so we can take care of it, okay? All right. So thank you for the donation. Will been here. Peace, Big Bro Divine. Have you ever heard of or studied the difference between Zion theology and Sinai theology? I'm reading a book called The Social Roots of Yahwism and was wondering, do you have any info on this topic? So there are those two phrases are used by different authors differently. So Zion theology is this idea where Mount Zion has been considered a holy mountain and is a covenant mountain in the land. Sinai theology has to do with the covenant in Mount Sinai, which is in the Transjordan region or Northwest Arabian region, not the Sinai Peninsula they tell you it's at, right? Where St. Catherine's Monastery is at. But anyway, so the difference is one has to do with the covenant that was confirmed and was made in the land that was right near Jerusalem in Mount Zion. And the other one has to do with what's being done at Sinai and the theological framework that was created while they were in the wilderness in that region, and then how it developed into a different type of theology that shifted from Sinai to Mount Zion when he actually came into land. Is actually one that also deals with Mount Hermon, right? Mount Hermon is also considered to be a holy site as well. So yes, I'm familiar with that. But in order for me to comment, you got to give me the context from the source that you're reading, which is the Social Roots of Yahwism, cite a page or something like that. I think I have that book. Man, it's been so many books that I read. Let me see. I have that book. Do I have that book? Sure, I have that book. Hold on, let me take a look. Because that sounds very familiar. Let me take a look. Yeah, I do have that book. Yeah, I have it listed in my digital library repository. It's been a while. I think I read that maybe about 7 years ago. It's been some time, but if there's something something particular that you have already from that book, just type up the page number in there and type out maybe a couple of sentences and let me address it, or you can just type some information in and I can address it for you in particular. But yes, I have seen various authors write about Zion theology and Sinai theology. So that's how we know that the text is a composite work, because one puts emphasis on the Sinai covenant and the theological framework developed from that, and the other one puts it on Mount Zion, right? So it's interesting. Matter of fact, let me pull something up to show you that's very interesting, right, on that matter, since we're talking about that. Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7. Let me show you something interesting about that. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7. Shout out to Sister Tierra in the building. I see you. Shalom, sis. All right, let's go there. All right. 2 Samuel chapter 7. Now, when the king lived in his house and Yod-Heh-Wav had given him rest from all his surrounding enemies, the king said to Nathan, the prophet, or the Nabi, "See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwells in a tent." And Nathan said to the king, "Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yod-Heh-Wav is with you." But that same night, the word of Yod-Heh-Wav came to Nathan, "Go and tell my servant David, thus says Yod-Heh-Wav, would you build me a house to dwell in? I have not lived in a house since the day I brought up the people of Israel from Egypt to this day, but I have been moving about in a tent for my dwelling." Wow, that sounds really fascinating. In all places where I have moved with all the people of Israel, did I speak a word with any of the judges of Israel, whom I commanded to shepherd my people, saying, why have you not built me a house of cedar? Now, therefore, thus you shall say to my servant David, thus says the Lord of hosts, I took you from the pasture, from following the sheep, that you should be prince over my people Israel. And I have been with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies from before you. And I will make for you a great name, like the name of the great ones of the earth. And I will appoint a place for you, upon a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, so that they may dwell in their own place and be disturbed no more. And violent men shall afflict them no more, as formerly, from the time that I appointed judges over my people Israel. And I will give you rest from all your enemies. Moreover, the Lord declares to you that the Lord will make you a house. When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. When he commits iniquity, I will discipline him with the rod of men, with the stripes of the sons of men. But my steadfast love will not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I have put away from before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me. Your throne shall be established forever. In accordance with all these words, in accordance with all this vision, Nathan spoke to David. So the connection that we're talking about is the wandering in Egypt, that Sinai theology, connected to this Mount Zion theology, where the house is actually going to be made for Yod He Wavet, for the deity to reside in, to dwell in. You see, he was on a mountaintop before, then he sent his representative to guide them along the way. But when they came into the land, he has not had a house to dwell in. So that's the marrying of the two, or showing the development from Sinai to Zion. Okay, there's a lot more than that. It's actually a very intricate topic, and it's very fascinating. But let me see. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That's true. This is why you got to get what's called the Old Testament survey. And pretty much what that is, it's a book that gives you the background behind all the books of the text. And actually, this one here that I always recommend to y'all, the Cultural Background Study Bible, goes into detail, and it actually breaks down each of the prophets' theology, their recipient audience, the historical context, etc. But he is right. Whenever you see references to Mount Sinai, and again, it's not just with those two prophets. You see it all throughout the Psalms, and also is also mentioned by Nehemiah. He mentions it, speaks about that as well, and talks about the reaffirmed covenant that they are to do in Nehemiah chapter 1. And then you see things dealing with what's called the Zion theology, which is really tied to a Messiah or a king and Messiah that represents the covenant made at Zion, which was commemorated by the building of the the temple. Tabernacle was a tent that was used to be mobile, but the house of cedar that you see mentioned in the book of Samuel, that was built by Solomon, right? And that was built near Mount Zion. And then now what happened was the deity took residence from Sinai to Zion. And then he would come down from Zion, and he would communicate with them over the mercy seat in the holies of holies in the temple, right? So, all right. Okay. So hopefully that addresses that. So how we doing on time? We got some time. We got about 32 to 45 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Let me address as many as I can in this period of time coming up. All right. So Talia says, do you know of any books that talks about the role of a woman? Of course I do. Of course. I don't know if you are a sister or a brother. On the Patreon, we have about 6 books that deal with that, 2 articles that deal with that, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 books, and then I'm going to show you an article, okay? So let me get the 2 books. I'll get it for you right now. Hold on one second. Of course, we got books for years on every topic you can think of under the sun. All right, so let me see. Let me see if I could find it. Where do I have it at? I'm looking in my domestic folders on my computer because I recently downloaded it and shared it with some sisters in KHM. All right, here we go. I'm gonna show you 3 books and I'm gonna give you an article, okay? If you want these resources, just email me. I'll send it to you, or just sign up for our Patreon and you can see these books and plenty more. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. This book here, it's called The Role of Women in Work and Society in the Ancient Near East. All right. Studies in the Ancient Near East. And this is by Brigitte Lyon and Cecile Michel. Right. And this goes into tons of data that we have in regards to the roles of women, right? So we deal with women in work in the ancient Near East, weaving, potting, churning, women at work in the Uruk period, representation of women in Mesopotamian lexical texts, women in land and the pre-Sargonic Lagash corpus, the role of women in working society in the Ebla kingdom, women in production in the Sargonic Adab, professional women in work, women at work in Mesopotamia and Syria, the rare information from visual images, women at work and women in economy and society during the Neo-Sumerian period, the sex-based division of work versus intersectionality, some strategies for engineering the Ur-3 textile workforce, women work, men and professionals in the old Assyrian archives, the job of sex, the social and economic role of prostitutes in ancient Mesopotamia. She is not fit for womanhood, the ideal housewife according to Sumerian literary texts, economic activities of Naditum, women of Shamash reflected in the field sale contracts, Herhez la Femme, the economic role of women in Old Babylonian Sipar, economic activities of women according to the Mari text, women at work in Mesopotamia, an attempt at a legal perspective, sources for the study of the role of women in Hittite administration, work and gender in Nuzi society, women in economic agreements, Amorite sale contracts, the Kubud Da'u gift in the Emar text, women in Elamite royal inscriptions, some observations, women in the activities in divinatory texts, studying gender, a case of women administrators in Neo-Syrian palaces, etc. This goes on and on. This book is about 600 pages, but it gives you about the ancient Near Eastern background and tell you about the roles and the work and women, what they did in the economic, social, and political sphere in regards to society. So this gives you that against the ancient Near Eastern background. However, there are other books that are more specific that deals with Israel, but I need you to read these books as well that talk about the ancient Near East so you can understand the background that the Israelite culture was part of, right? This book here, Women in the Ancient Near East by Martin Stoll, right? Also talks about the roles of women. This breaks it down more in more logical categories that's easier to follow. Women's outward appearance, marriage, preparations, age for marrying, regulations, the betrothal, the wedding, marriage gifts, the family, a second wife, concubines, marriage between equals, marriage to a slave, divorce, adultery, rape, incest, the widow, Levirate marriage, women's rights of inheritance, women trafficking under the guise of adoption, women robbed of their freedom, women in work, the witch, prostitution, temple prostitution, her physical life, physiology, menstruation, diseases, the old women, the court in the harem before 1500 BC, the court in the harem after 1500 BC, priestesses, old Babylonian converts, married holy women, soothsaying, women in worship, the sacred marriage, the Middle Assyrian law book about women, and the value placed on women. Okay, let's get another one. This one here. Women in Ugarit and Israel, their social and religious position in the context of the ancient Near East. Okay, it's another good read. Let me get into this. Just to give you a look into this too. Early feminism in the Bible, the synchronic approach, the diachronic approach, methodological considerations, And again, it says early feminism in the Bible. So it's going to try to show you some kind of affinities there in regards to that movement. But we are not part of that movement here at KHM at all. We support womanism. We're not part of the feminist movement at all. But it's a very good insight to kind of see what groups have tried to use the Bible to support that position, right? But going into further, it says the social position of women. Women in the family, wife, the choice of a partner, courtship, marriage, the legal basis of marriage. Was marriage a religious institution? Married life, husband and wife, a wife's own world, the dissolution of marriage, mother, sister, daughter, widow, orphan, women in society, women of the court, queen, queen mother, royal wives and concubines, princess, non-royal women, legal ownership of immovable property, business, professions and domestic activities, slavery, women as religious specialists, women as worshipers, a check on reliability, letters from Ugaritic, Israel, and Elephantine, seals and boule, legal text, administrative text, and then the social position of women and the religious position of women, all right? This book here is 794 pages. The previous book is 707 pages, and the first book I referenced is 587 pages. So you want to know details about women in the ancient Near East, more particularly ancient Israel. This is over almost 2,000 pages worth of content, if you're willing to read it, to understand about the role of women in society in the ancient Near East during the Middle Bronze Age to Iron Age 2C, during that period of time, right? But if that is a lot, okay, which it is, but again, if you're really interested in it, you'll dive into it, right? I'm going to show you an article, right, that summarizes all of this, and that's very short, right? Much shorter than what we're reading here. All right. So here's the article right here. It's called Women in Israelite Religion. The State of Research is All New Research by Beth Alpert Nakai. Okay. Now, if you go down, okay, what she wanted to do was do some revolutionary reconsiderations in regards to how archaeology is approached and how a patriarchal male-dominant field of academia has overlooked and glossed over the importance and the roles of women in the ancient Near East, more particularly in ancient Israel. Okay. And what she does is that she breaks down a lot of the roles that women had in regards to ancient Israel, right? And places in which things in which they led. So Israel was not a pure patriarchy. It was not a matriarchy, right? But it wasn't a pure patriarchy, right? It was a hierarchy, which means whatever gender had the expertise in whatever the subject matter was, they took the lead, right? So I'll give you a good example. The Song of Deborah, right? The Song of Miriam, right? That follows the Song of the Sea by Moses, right? Whenever there was victory, the women would lead the procession. Whenever somebody died, yeshiva, the women would lead the lamenting process. There would be the mourners. There would be the comforters, right? That's what they would do. When it came to childbirth, midwifery, doula, the women led that. Men were not involved in that process. Only the women were. All right? And tons of other things. Healing in the home. That was the role of the woman. That was her job. We have the archaeological excavations of Israelites' houses, the 4-room houses, and we're able to see who resided in which room. And when it came to healing, the women had all the supplies. That's what they did. Okay. So a lot of things as well, right? In a negative context, when you go to temple prostitution, the women led in that role as well, sacred prostitution. Matter of fact, when you read 1 Corinthians chapter 6, you got to consider the Aphrodite temple in Corinth, what we call Acro-Corinth. There was a temple there to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and that was led by women. And what happened was you had people that was in ecclesia in Corinth that would pretty much go and entertain that temple prostitution and then come and congregate with the rest of the believers. And Paul had to address that when he was talking about that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. That's what he was talking about. Pornos in the Greek means the selling off of something. We have been taught that pornos, the Greek word, equals what we call premarital sex or fornication. That's not what that is. You got to look at the context in which it's being used. Look at that temple, which is a stone's throw from where they congregated at, okay? And know what was going on historically at that time, right? But the Catholic Catechism is the one that equated this word pornos, that was then loosely translated into fornication, and equated it to premarital sex, right? That's another conversation altogether. And again, when I talk about marriage and divorce, I have a whole lecture that I want to do on that. I will mention that on there because there's a lot of misconceptions that we have fused our contemporary understanding of things onto the past, and that's not how it was going down back then. You have to establish within the historical context what was going on and why. And then once that's established, then you can try to see how that aligns with today and what principles to extract and apply to ensure that we're able to execute success in those areas of marriage and divorce today. Okay? All right. So if you're interested in any of these materials, the book or that article, let me know. I can email it. Email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and I'll send it to you, or sign up for our Patreon. You get access to those books and tons more. Okay? All right. Ray J, what's going on? You're in here promoting the Quran and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Shout out to Matt. You said, I know you read this book. I don't know what you're talking about. So let me go ahead and check. Ray J's asked me, would you convert to Islam? No. Let me see. Let's keep going. Let's see. Marks 14. Do you know, what are your thoughts on the book of D's? Yeah, I'm not stupid, my brother. Stop that. Stop that. We're gonna keep going. Yeah, so V brand Yedidiah was the name that the Most High gave Solomon. Solomon, that name Solomon, Shlomo, that was given to him by David and his mother, but the Most High called him Yedidiah, right? And again, Yedidiah is very similar to David. They share the same root, cognate, which means beloved, one who is loved, right? That's what David, right? Or Dawood. That's what that means. It means beloved, one who is loved, right? So, so when you say the teaching that the Messiah was also Solomon, I guess some people would say who believe in reincarnation, they would make that claim, but that's very sketchy and it's a lot that needs to be unpacked in regards to that. All right. So Dennis McMillian, you said, so are you saying temple prostitution is lawful? I never said that. I never said temple prostitution is lawful. Did prostitution exists in ancient Israel? Yes. Was it tolerated? Yes. Was it preferred? No. It was a big taboo, just like it is in today's society. However, people have changed the game in this society. You can use Instagram and social media to sell sex. You can have an OnlyFans page and sell sex. You can get involved in pornography and sell sex. You don't have to physically touch anybody anymore for women to show their assets and perform in a particular way in order for them to receive revenue in exchange. So they've taken it to the digital age. Any tool of technology that mankind has created, there's good and bad uses for it. And you'll see that in all cases, right? But prostitution was tolerated, right? However, the scripture is clear culturally that we are, matter of fact, let's bring up the scripture. Bring up the scripture, right? Yeah, I don't know where you're getting that. I said that was okay. I never said that. So Brian, it doesn't look down upon ancestor veneration. Ancestor veneration is always done, especially through the invoking of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So anytime there's a reference to an ancestor who has covenant with a deity, that is looked upon greatly. Matter of fact, that's why Moshe, that's why his name is revered in the realm of, Judaism, right? Because of ancestor veneration. David also is venerated as an ancestor, right? So every culture performs ancestor veneration differently, okay? Matter of fact, one thing that has been excavated from the Iron Age period in which the Israelites resided in Israelite sites was what's called the Judean pillar figurine. And these were figurines that were created for various purposes. You see them mentioned in the text as teraphim, and some of them were representative of ancestors that has passed, right? It's a reminder of their ancestors and the veneration of those ancestors. So ancestor veneration is part of Israelite culture, right? So just want to make sure that I say that. It doesn't look down upon that. Now, maybe people who teach the text void of the ancient pre-Israelite Israelite perspective, they will look down upon ancestor veneration, but the text doesn't. Matter of fact, the text even bigs up tutelary spirits or tutelary deities, right? The ones that watch over or protect that we see in Tehillim 91 or Psalms 91. That's part of Israelite culture. However, it's glossed over because people have become dogmatic in the realm of Judeo-Christianity, right? That these ancestral practices have been deemed as wicked or evil or pagan or whatever the case may be. And that's not the case. It is simply misunderstood. And whoever is making those claims simply do not have enough knowledge, have not done enough research in order to uncover these things. Matter of fact, cleromancy, divination, prayer is a form of that, and casting lots is a form of that. That's part of Israelite culture. But people in our community, how many of them actually embracing this? Not many. And these are things that that I've been teaching for a long time, man. But anyway, so let me get into the scripture real quick. Let me share this real quick so we can get into this. And I'll keep addressing questions until we tap out in about 30 minutes. All right, so let's take a look at it. All right. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 29. Okay. Do not profane your daughter by making her a prostitute, lest the land fall into prostitution and the land become full of depravity. Do you understand? So let's get a case scenario of prostitution. Now, remember those books I showed y'all? They also touch on prostitution and the historical context of prostitution, right? A lot of people have not done research on this, but you should to understand that this was done in ancient Israel, right? There was prostitutes in ancient Israel, and it was not anything that was positive. It was shameful. Matter of fact, it was so shameful, the prostitutes didn't even show their faces while they were intimate with their clients. They were veiled. Here's a great example: Judah and Tamar. She was veiled when he went to do his thing with her, right? That's what they did. There was still honor and dishonor. So they were honorable by covering their face so as not to bring shame upon their family. Because remember, I told you before the difference between a high context culture and a low context culture. A high context culture has great reverence for the collective, for the family, right? For the family image. Low context cultures is about the individual's reputation, individual's image. So the ancient Israelites was a high context culture. So they were concerned about the collective, right? That's why you see this covenant of blessings and curses dealing with the collective nation, not just individuals, right? So with that being said, a case scenario will be this. If a woman was a widow and her husband died, she's no longer a virgin, right? She laid with her husband. Or let's say she laid with another man, and for whatever reason, they're not together anymore, right? And she had left her father's house, which would pretty much be her immediate family and some extended family members, right? And then she would be on her own. Sometimes if they had relocated someone, she would be on her own. She would have to find a way to make means to support herself. So some of those women, not all of them, some of them would turn to prostitution for them to find a means of taking care of their livelihood, right? Again, prostitutes wore a particular garment that was different than women who were virgins. different from women who are married. You are identified by how you dress. Now, today, it's like that as well in our culture, in our society, right? In America, right? Back then, it was very similar, right? So you knew who was a prostitute. Today, it's very hard to tell. If you go on IG, I mean, a lot of women, they express their sexuality by dressing how they dress, but they get offended when men, hit them up to want to do more than just look at their pictures. I mean, that's just, whose fault is that? I mean, men need self-control, obviously, but the women also need to kind of watch how they walk. Matter of fact, there was a sister that I knew for years. And me and her are friends on Instagram, Facebook, and so forth, right? And she used to, like, years ago, I think when it's back in 2009, when people were really getting on Instagram and so forth. She had a 2-3-year-old son and a daughter. I think her daughter was maybe 5 or whatever. But anyway, so she was on social media and she put out all these pictures of her because she had a breakup with her ex-boyfriend and she wanted to be, wanted to be free in her sexuality, and decided to put all these pictures out in the internet about herself. And then 10 years later, right, when her son got older, like 12, 13, her daughter was like 15, 16, they got to see all of that content. Their mother was telling the daughter about modesty and so forth, and telling the son what kind of women to look for. And they said, well, Juan, wait, hold on. We saw all these pictures of you over the past 10, 11 years. Ain't nothing modest about anything you put out there. Oh, well, I was going through a phase and this, and that. So it's like, so you can't tell us nothing about phases if you've been through it. And she regretted that she even did that, right? But again, she was much older. She's 11 years older than she was at the time when she did it. And a lot of us do things we don't think about because of certain circumstances that we typically wouldn't do it. But again, society and the morals, the ethics of society, you are able to feel liberated and express your sexuality, whether you're male or female. That's the way the society is. And if somebody chooses to do that, that's their prerogative. However, in this particular culture, there is a high value in regard for modesty, right? And there's a reason for that, because again, you are identified by how you dressed, and how you dress exemplified what your function in society was, right? Who you were, right? So I say that to say there were some innocent case scenarios where women had to go to prostitution in order for them to make a living. Some of them did it because they were sexually liberated, and that's just what they wanted to do, right? Some of them were forced into prostitution where the fathers would be poor, and when the daughters became of marriageable age in Alma, they would then prostitute their daughters. That's what they would do. So then the woman would become a prostitute by virtue of the father introducing her into prostitution. So again, there's a lot of case scenarios for why prostitution exists. But here, the text is very clear what its take is in regards to prostitution. Did it happen? Yes. Was it tolerated? Yes. Was it preferred, ideal, or was it something that was honorable? No. All right. Psalm 51, yes. Western societies is a low context culture with a focus on the individual and the requirement of the individual to express a whole bunch of information, right, in order for that individual's thoughts and ideas to be known to an audience who may not share the same ethnic background, social background, economic background, etc. Right? America, you could be part of this society by virtue of citizenship, not culture. So that's why we have a melting pot of cultures. But in the Eastern realm, ethnicity, culture, customs, and mannerisms was part of the collective demographic that possessed them. And that is what made them distinct. That is what made them unique amongst all the other people groups. So once the process of ethnogenesis occurred, when an ethno group was birthed out of circumstances and so forth, the Israelites was birthed out of their situation in Egypt, right? And then when they settled in the land after 40 years in the Central countryside, they started to emerge as a unique people group by having distinct pottery, cultic items, burial practices, dietary, preferences, etc. All these things made them distinct from the other people groups in which they were surrounded by. All right. So that's the king. It is unlawful for a father or for a mother to make their daughter a prostitute. Because again, this is what the poor were doing. When they needed to make ends meet and they didn't have enough cattle, they didn't have enough crops, they were merchants or had a carpentry, profession or whatever, they would sell their daughters into prostitution. Some of them even sold their sons into male prostitution, because that word is in the text too. That root word where we get kodesh, that kuf, dalet, shin, that root word, depending on where the diacritics marks could be at, can refer to something that is set apart or, for good, or set apart for bad. And can also refer to male prostitutes, female prostitutes that existed in ancient Israel. It was tolerated. But again, it was shameful, dishonorable. And again, if a parent made their child a prostitute, right, that was breaking the commandments. Now, if we read Leviticus 19:29, we don't see here where there is a capital punishment tied to this offense. So this is why you were able to see it there. Now, was it rampant? We don't have evidence that it was rampant, right? Like this was happening like 1 in every 2 households or something like that. But maybe 1 out of every 10 households, the women would prostitute. And it's because of the circumstances that I said. Maybe a widow needs to make ends meet. A parent put their child through prostitution in order to make ends meet for the family. Or a woman just saw the profession and took advantage of it because, women, they're particularly hard-coded to be very sensual, to be very alluring. That is the power of femininity. That's the power that women can wield over men. Men can wield power in regards to strength, but women can yield power in regards to their femininity when it comes to their being alluring, to being seductive. These are all feminine traits. And that's how women, they have that type of power through alluring men, right? So that's what it is. So again, we are to refrain from indulging in any type of prostitution in any way, shape, or form, right? But like I said, in ancient Israel, it was a reality. It happened. Do you see any evidence of a prostitute being stoned? We had to bring up a particular scripture and take a look at that, right? Like the situation with Judah and Tamar is very, very interesting, right? But then you have other words in there like harlot, right? And other terms that's used in regards to like whoremonger and stuff like that that's used. But the underlying Hebrew words, they're not always the same. So it depends. It also actually outlines the context, and it's very important to look at that as well. All right. All right. Dennis, give us the scripture so we can take a look at it. Give us a scripture. Let's take a look at it. Leviticus 21:9, if a priest's daughter defiles herself by prostituting herself, she profanes her fire and she must be burned in the fire. So if the priest's daughter prostitutes, then that's a capital offense that requires a capital punishment, and it's laid out. But in regards to verse 29, there's no capital of a punishment tied to that offense, right? All right. So if a woman was supposed to be a virgin in her father's house, and she, unbeknownst to her father, goes out and is promiscuous with other men, and then the father pledges her to another man as a virgin, and he pays the bride price, and he lies when he sees that she's not a virgin, and it was never revealed to the father or to the husband or her spouse, right? Then that is considered, a form of being promiscuous and is similar to playing the role of a harlot. A prostitute gets paid. A harlot does not get paid. All right. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 17, it says, no daughter or son of Israel, daughter or son. This again, like I said, there was female and male prostitutes. Is to be a shrine prostitute, the temple prostitutes. Again, go look at the Aphrodite temple in Corinth if you want to learn the history of what that is. Okay. All right. Deuteronomy 23, verse 18, you must not bring the wages of a prostitute, whether female or male, into the house of the Most High your power to fulfill any vow, because both are detestable to the Most High your power. So there was times where you had to give an offering of wages, tithing, or whatever the case may be. But if that came from prostitution, it was detestable. So again, we see the viewpoint in regards of the culture as it pertains to prostitution. It's very clear, right? But did that stop prostitution from happening? No. And again, if a woman was a prostitute, is there a capital offense to that? We don't see that, only in the case scenario when it is the priest's daughter. Now, if you want to say, Exodus chapter 19, verse 6, it says, all of Israel is going to be a holy nation, priests, and so forth. And you have a daughter and she's a prostitute, then that could be, that could principally apply, not literally apply, because we see here what it says, but principally that can apply. But you cannot take it upon yourself to commit any kind of capital punishment. You don't have the authority or the sovereignty to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, so you're talking about Tamar, right? Not Tarma. You're talking about Tamar? Is that what you're talking about, Dennis? Tamar? So yes, there you go. DB, weren't those sexual acts of prostitution considered some type of fornication? Yes, because pornos in the Greek means the selling off of purity. How do you sell off your purity? Your purity is a woman's womb was designed for her husband, right? Man's phallus was designed for his wife, right? And if that woman sold off that sacred place where she allowed other lovers to come in when that should be only committed to her husband, then yes, that is considered pornos or fornication, because that is the selling off of something that should be pure and sacred. That is what fornication is. Selling off something that is sacred, selling off something that is sacred. Now, what if you don't sell it off? Is that considered fornication? No. There's other terms for it. It's other penalties, but that's not the same thing. Christianity, early Christianity, the development Christianity was developing, was having all types of discussions around this word pornos until we got it codified and explained in the Catholic Catechism as being premarital sex. So let me give you an example of this, right? Let me show you an example of this, right? So let me go here. Hold on. Y'all asking some interesting questions in regards to this. I want to touch on some other questions, but I'm gonna just give this. I'm gonna show you something, right? Now watch this. Since we're talking about premarital sex, right? Deuteronomy chapter 22. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed and seizes her and lies with her. Now, this does not mean rape. I'm gonna prove that, right? Verse 25. But if in the open country a man meets a young woman who is betrothed and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die, right? There's two different words here. Let me show you, right? And again, this is why this translation is very bad, right? So here, right? But if in the countryside a man finds a young woman betrothed and forces, see that? Let's get this word here, chazach, to be or grow firm or strong, to strengthen, to become mighty, to overpower, to strengthen against, to force, to hold fast. This will be your word for rape. Okay? So forces, this is rape. But when we go here, this is more about what we say in our modern vernacular, running games, seducing, alluring, persuading, right? So we'll take a look at the word, right? And if a man finds a young woman who's a virgin, who's not betrothed, and it says, and seizes her, but wait, it's a different word, okay? The word is tafas, means to lay hold, wield, but if you go in, it means to arrest, to capture, to seize, to wield. But look at the context in which it's used here on the right, and you'll see it means to allure, right? It means, again, depending if there's an accusative or not, to wield skillfully, right? It means to seduce, to devise. It's not the same word, right? So take hold as in captivate, as in seduce, as into allure, as into spit and run game and get her to. So it's two different words. This is not dealing with rape. But why am I bringing this out? Because I want to show you something. Then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife because he has violated her. You see, that's the penalty. We cannot have these men out here just taking these young virgins, running game on them, laying with them, and think that there's no consequences. No, in ancient Israel, there were consequences. You had to pay 50 shekels of silver. And guess what? If you cannot afford to pay 50 shekels of silver, then you got to work that debt off to that father. And then that woman shall be your wife. So now, are you willing to have 1,000,000 wives by lying down with 1,000,000 virgins? That's all up to you. You have the responsibility of taking care of all of those women. Good luck. Right? But you see, the word for fornication, which would be a different word from pornos in the Greek to what we see in the Hebrew, is not mentioned there. You don't see harlot mentioned here, whoremonger mentioned here. None of those words are mentioned here. This is not fornication. This is not fornication. That has been defined in the Catholic Catechism. Matter of fact, let me get the Catholic Catechism for you. Okay, let me get that. Right? Let me get it. I'm going to get it for you. Just give me 1 second. Let me bring it up. I'm going to read this to you. All right, here it is. Let me share it on the screen. All right, now that might be kind of small, so let's zoom in a little bit. All right, I want to show you how this has been defined as fornication. All right. All right. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2nd edition, part 3, life in Christ. Section 2, the 10 Commandments. Chapter 2, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Article 6, the 6th commandment, you shall not commit adultery. You have heard that it was said you should not commit adultery, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, adultery has to do with a man and a woman who are married and a situation where that man goes to lie with another married man's wife. The only way that adultery can be committed is if marriage is involved. If there's no marriage involved, it's not considered adultery. Well, let me show you where Yeshua was not teaching anything different than what's in Torah. Let me get the scripture for you, all right? Let's go to Shemot chapter 20. And I'm going to get back to this. Let me just do Shemot chapter 20. I think people are thinking that Yeshua was teaching against the Old Testament laws or whatever. You know, people say some crazy stuff like that. Let me show you where that's at in what we call Torah. Okay? Check it out. Shemot or Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. When you covet something, it is not a physical act. See this word here? Tahmud, right? From the root word chamad, to desire, take pleasure in. Something that is pleasing, something that you desire, something that you covet, something that you are attracted to, that you delight in. It's not physical. So if you look at your neighbor's wife and you covet her, you're lusting after her, you're breaking the 10th commandment. So Yeshua was talking to a people who have been devoid of simple knowledge. So he had to say to them, you shall not commit adultery, which is also part of the 10 commandments. But then he had to emphasize the part of the 10th commandment, to let them know. But I say to you, I'm giving you some additional expository, that if you look upon a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery with her, which means if you are desiring this inwardly, you are still breaking the commandment, which means that the people may have not have gotten a lot of teachings on that 10th commandment. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that's been written on that, but I'm not gonna share too much here now. But let's go back. Let me go back again. I just want to show you how harmonious what Yeshua was saying with what's in Torah. He didn't teach anything against Torah. Anybody that says that don't know what they're talking about, right? Let's go back. All right. Catechism, Catholic Catechism. Let's go back. All right. Now watch this. Right? God is love, and in himself he lives a mystery of personal loving communication. Right? Let's keep going. Let's go to 2332. Sexuality affects all aspects of the human person and the unity of his body and soul. It especially concerns affectivity, the capacity to love and to procreate, and in a more general way, the aptitude for forming bonds of communion with others. 233. Everyone, man and woman, should acknowledge and accept his sexual identity. Physical, moral, and spiritual difference and complementarity are oriented towards the goods of marriage and the flourishing of family life. The harmony of the couple and of society depends in part on the way in which the complementary needs and mutual support between the sexes are lived out, right? Let's keep going, right? Watch this, right? This goes into the vocation of chastity. Matter of fact, let me share this link with y'all. Hold on, let me share this link. Let me put it in the chat so you can follow what I'm saying. All right. There you go. So the link is there. Click on the link so you can follow, okay? All right. All right. So let's go to offenses against chastity, right? Chastity is when you live celibate, okay? And virgins should be celibate, or people should be celibate unless they are married. This is a dogma that has been imposed by the Roman Catholic Church. Now, listen, let me qualify this, because you're going to take this and do something unlawful with it. I do not condone, right, premarital sex, right? If it happens, it happens, right? It's not ideal, but if it happens, it happens, right? But there is no, listen to what I'm saying, unless a woman is betrothed or married to a man, there's no capital offense. You understand? I just showed you from Devarim chapter 22. But when you have a religious body organization that is divvying out inconvertibly true statements based on their dogma, because that's part of the definition of dogma, then they create the legal codes, same way that you would get from a halakha. They create the legal codes that govern the adherence of that religious institution. So let me read this for you so you can see this, okay? Watch this, okay? Offenses against chastity. We're going to read 2351, 2352, and 2353. 2351. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's get this. All right. Lust is disordered desire for or inordinate enjoyment of sexual pleasure. Sexual pleasure is morally disordered when sought for itself, isolated from its procreative and unitive purposes. Okay. By masturbation, it is understood the deliberate stimulation of the genital organs in order to derive sexual pleasure. Both the magisterium of the church in the course of a constant tradition, and the moral sense of the faithful have been in no doubt and have firmly maintained that masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action. The deliberate use of the sexual faculty for whatever reason outside of marriage is essentially contrary to its purpose. For here, sexual pleasure is sought outside of the sexual relationship, which is demanded by the moral order, and in which the total meaning of mutual self-giving and human procreation in the concept of true love is achieved. To form an equitable judgment about the subject's moral responsibility and to guide pastoral action, one must take into account the affective immaturity, force of acquired habit, conditions of anxiety, or other psychological or social factors that lessen, if not even reduce to a minimum, moral culpability. So what does that mean? So what they're saying is masturbation, according to the constant tradition of the magisterium of the church, okay, over the development of time, has identified masturbation as being something that an individual, an act that they commit outside of what sex is designed for, which is supposed to be an act of procreation between a married woman and a married man. And if a person is doing that, right, that pastoral action must take effect in order to analyze the condition of the individual so that there is moral culpability for their actions. Now, let's go to 2353, which is the next one, because somebody asked that question, masturbation. As you can see, they did not cite a scripture. But the text says that if a man issues forth seed, right? Matter of fact, let me get that, since somebody asked that. I'll come back to this. Let me get that. Okay. Leviticus 15:16. If a man has an emission of semen, he shall bathe his whole body in water and be unclean until the evening. Any clothing or leather on which there is an emission of semen must be washed with water, and it will remain unclean until evening. Okay, do you see that? Right? If a man lies with a woman and there is an emission of semen, both must bathe with water, and they will remain unclean until evening. So, right? If a man issues forth semen with no woman recipient, right, he will be unclean. If a man lies with a woman and there's an emission of semen, they both must bathe. Why? Because semen is sacred, and when it's spilled, right, you are issued forth something that is sacred, and it is being made unclean, right? And when they say emission of semen, right, there's different ways where this is addressed. Is it referring to the emission of semen that comes out of the man directly, or things that it touches, or the fact that it's done outside of the procreative purpose, whatever? Because some perspectives on this is this could be referring to what people call wet dreams, where a man, will wake up and, stuff would happen. Same thing with a woman. She'll wake up and have a discharge or whatever the case may be, right? But that makes you unclean. So that's principally masturbation makes you unclean. Principally, masturbation and whatever that semen touches, it becomes unclean. Must be washed ritually so that it may be unclean until the evening, and then it is cleansed. If a man lies with a woman and there's emission of semen, they both must bathe, and they will remain unclean until the evening. So does that mean that sex is unclean? Well, in this context, we don't really know if this is referring to a husband and wife or just general sexual intercourse. It doesn't specify that any marriage is involved here. So the assumption is that this is between a man and a woman who is not married, that they are lying down and they're doing a procreative act outside of the confines of a marriage, and therefore that act is unclean, and they must wash and bathe ritually so they may become clean. All right? So principally, what we call sex outside of marriage and masturbation makes you unclean. That's just what it is. If you want to continue to be unclean, then you're just going to be unclean perpetually. So how can you come before Yah if you're perpetually unclean? He has to wash you. He has to correct that, right? We all fall short. All of us have certain things that we have done or are doing that we need help. That is a constant battle, struggle, process. We all face these things. No one is exempt from that, right? But principally, the truth is the truth. Whether you are abiding by it or you're not, the truth is what it is. The truth is a double-edged sword. It can cut to heal, and it can cut to wound. So no matter what we are doing behaviorally, the word is the standard that we must meet. And it is a guideline to understand if we are mature. That concept of perfection is a Western construct. And if you continue to impose that on people, they will always fall short. No one will be righteous. No one will be blameless. No one will be upstanding. But that is not how it is perceived in the ancient Near East. The gods themselves, outside of the ancient Israelite paradigm, were believed to be, imperfect. It was very difficult to know the will of the gods because anything can happen at any time. They had the same emotions, desires that man do. The only difference is they're on a different realm and they have more power, authority, and sovereignty than the common mortal man has, right? That's the ancient Near East. In regards to Israelite culture, it's different. The chief patron deity, right, has emotions, but he has also revealed his will. And guess what? His will is consistent. His will is coherent. His will is predictable. That's what makes this deity distinct from all the other deities in the ancient Near East. But let's get back to, and again, see, when I address this, if we're going to talk about it, I'm going to give you scripture and I'm going to exegete the text. But let's get back to where we was at. Let's get back to where we was at in the Catholic Catechism. I want to read this for you about how we get this idea of premarital sex. Okay. It's a tradition that developed and it has been culminated in this catechism of the Catholic Church. 2353. Fornication is a carnal union between an unmarried man and an unmarried woman. It is gravely contrary to the dignity of persons and of human sexuality, which is naturally ordered to the good of spouses and the generation and education of children. Moreover, it is a grave scandal when there is corruption of the young. This is how they define it. Let's get to that word fornication. Let's look that word fornication up, right? I'm gonna go grab a lexicon. Let's look this up. Why does this keep doing that? All right. Let me show it to you. Here's the word right here. Porneia, right? They translate that as fornication, whoredom, met, idolatry. Now, the interesting thing is context adds to the semantic value of a word, right? The definition of a word, context, right? This is why some words have a wide range of meaning, right? However, when you're dealing with a translator who already has a presupposition and a dogmatic and doctrinal stance on a particular situation, that will affect their interpretation and translation of a particular passage of scripture. In this case, this term fornication and what fornication means. Now, we're going to look that up also in an etymology dictionary, right? I'm going to show that to you in 1 second, right? But before we do that, let's keep this dealing with this, right? Porneia, the root of the English terms pornography, pornographic, from 4205, pornos, right? Which is derived from pornao, to sell off. Do you see? To sell off. This is from the words Paul's using in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, that's dealing with the temple prostitutes at the Aphrodite temple at Acrocorinth. That's why you got to understand the background of what's going on. But this is what the word means. Properly, a selling off, surrendering of sexual purity, promiscuity of any or every type. Now, that's something that they've injected, but the word literally means to sell off. That's what it means. See? Pornos, pornau, to sell off properly a what? Male prostitute. See? Prostitution is connected to this word. So fornication, what they call premarital sex, is not prostitution. Someone said, well, just as bad as prostitution. It's prostitution. You're having sex without the commitment of marriage. So it's like, oh, just as bad, but it's not the same thing. Prostitution, they get paid for their action. Whores don't. No. Or in our society, we use the term a hoe. They don't. They like the thrill of sex with multiple partners. We live in a very polyamorous society, right? But if you're going to call somebody a fornicator, some kind of selling has to be done. Now, looking at this, you can use what I would say is the Septuagint to find the same word in what's called the Tanakh and see what Hebrew words are used for it. Or you can also get Moroka's work, where he parses out all the words in the Greek Septuagint and shows you the Hebrew equivalent of it, and that helps to kind of limit your search or to refine your search so that it's more focal and you can get to where you're looking at. But that's homework I'll leave for y'all. I did that research already. Again, that's already in a PowerPoint that I have for a lecture where I'm going to deal with all of this subject matter, right? But I'm just showing you what it means, right? I didn't write this. I didn't make this word up. So let's find this word in another lexicon, a more up-to-date lexicon, right? That covers the full garment of what we call Koine Greek from other pieces of literature outside the New Testament, and also inject some classical Greek for that word because it's cognates, right? With Koine Common Greek and classical Greek. So look, let's just check it out. Let me grab it, right? Don't have my thumb drive there, but it should be here. Hold on. Let me find it. All right, here we go. I'll use this one. All right, let me see if I can pull it up. Yeah, of course it's not going to come up. That would be too easy. All right. So now I got to go through this lexicon. Hold on. It's going to take a second. So I'll find it. This lexicon is 2,441 pages. This is the Liddell Scott Greek lexicon. That's iota. Let's keep going. Okay, I may not find that right now. Definitely going to take some time. I'm going in alphabetical order in the Greek. Okay, here I'm getting close. Let's see if I can find it. Lambda. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're getting closer. Let's look for row. That's new. Oh, shoot. Didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Oh, I think I found it. Oh, no, we're close. Okay, here it is. I found it. Oh, no, this is not it. Oh, shoot. That's not it. Here we go. Okay, epsilon or I'm switching. Oh, I mean, can I make this enlarge this? Here we go. All right, hold on. I'm getting it. PR roll. There we go. Is this it? Okay, I found it. Oh man. All right. So hold on, let me go to okay, here it is. Wow, man. And this ebook is terrible, man. It's terrible. But you know, it is what it is. All right, we use what we got. All right. All right, let me show the screen so you can see what I'm looking at. Here it is. I had to go through the Greek for this one. Okay, so the word is right here. See this right here? And this is what we work porneia, right? Porneia, P-R-O-N-E-I-A, right? Epsilon, iota, alpha, right? Prostitution. You see that? And some context it says fornication, unchastity, right? Oh, what I do? Okay, we go. And it gives you Matthew 19:9, and it gives you 1 Corinthians 7:2. Metaphorically, idolatry, right? But if you go in, you'll see prostitute, prostitution, prostitute, prostitute. You go in here to pornos, sodomite. See that? And the LXX and New Testament, a fornicator. It says Sirach 23:16, Corinthians 5:9, an idolater. But you'll see here, prostitutes, prostitutes, prostitutes. There has to be some kind of selling off exchange for the act. You don't believe me? Go look in several others. Look in the Cambridge Greek lexicon. Look at that. So that's what it is. That's what they're talking about. Okay. So let me AB, you said make it bigger. I could make it bigger. It's very, very small font. So this is probably the biggest I can make it right here. Pause. All right, here it is. Let me show it to you. And again, like I said, this PDF is not the greatest. Once you zoom in a certain type, it starts to lose its, you know, the font starts to get pixelated. Let me show it to you. Hold on. All right, is that better? Let me know if that's better. Hit 1 if that's better. Okay, cool. All right. All right, this is it. Porneia. And then we go down to pornos right here, right? You see this little accent mark over the O, and then this O here doesn't have it. That means there's 2 different pronunciations, right? When you learn Greek, you can do that. If you want to learn Greek, sign up for the Patreon, type in Greek, and you'll go ahead and see our Greek courses that we have there for you, okay? So there it is, sodomite. That's what it says, sodomite. Male prostitutes, prostitution, prostitute, the act of prostitutes, the substance of a harlot, a brothel. And this is it being used in other Koine Greek and classical Greek works. At the end of the day, it is the dogma of the church that has redefined this term that existed before it was even used in the New Testament. And when you read the text out of context, this is what happens, right? All right. I think I have some other questions. We are at 2 hours and 4 minutes. I'll take one last question and then I'll tap out. Any other questions? Daughter of the Most High Puged. Divine is Zechariah 14, 16 and 20 end time prophecy. It should be, because I was just finished speaking to that on a consultation call last week. So let's look at Zechariah chapter 14. You said 16 to 20, which should be here, right? Let me show it to you. That definitely is an end time prophecy. Oh, shoot. She had the wrong thing. Okay. Hold on. All right, right here. Oh, right here. Verse 16. Then everyone who survives of all the nations that have come against Jerusalem shall go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Booths. And if any of the families of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, there will be no rain on them. And if the family of Egypt does not go up and present themselves, then on them there should be no rain. That should be the plague with which the Lord afflicts the nations that do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. It shall be the punishment to Egypt and the punishment to all the nations that do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. And on that day there shall be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to the Lord. And the pots in the house of the Lord shall be as the bowls before the altar. Read the context. If you go here, starting at verse 1, behold, a day is coming for the Lord when the spoil taken from you will be divided in your midst, for I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and houses plundered, and women raped. Half of the city shall go out into exile, but the rest of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord will go out and fight against those nations as when he fights on the day of battle. On that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives. The lies will be before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west by a wide, very wide valley, so that one half of the mount shall move northward, and another half shall move southward. And you shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach to Azal, and you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. Now, I've not seen this happen in history yet. Maybe somebody can tell me that this happened, where on that day there should be no light, cold, or frost. There's still light, cold, and frost in this region of where Mountain of Olives is at in Jerusalem. So this definitely is an end time prophecy. So context will give you that answer, and hopefully that answers your question. All right. Ramal Yahoo, yes. Yes. So there are some laws that apply only to a native born Israelite and some that only apply to a Gentile. Are there laws that they both share together? Yes. But there are other laws that is distinct to both people groups? Yes, at the same time. So just want to make sure that that's understood. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. Joel, I know you don't subscribe to the New Testament. That's fine. You have a question about Matthew 26 and 17, and you said it seems anachronistic to me. Why does it seem anachronistic to you? Anachronistic, just so people knows what that means. It is when you use a modern term in a historical context of something in the past. For example, Abraham came from the Ur of the Chaldeans. Chaldeans were not a people group in Ur, in the Middle Bronze Age period when Abraham would have been alive. But whoever's writing the text, whoever's authoring it, is authoring after the events, not contemporary to the events, and therefore they're using modern terms to describe something of the past. The same way that we can come and say that the Europeans came and took New York from the Native Americans. Well, New York is not what it was called at that time, but to a modern audience, they would identify where that geographical location is. So using that term would get them to better understand historically what occurred. Okay. All right. Shape ups and lineups is not a sin at all. Matter of fact, just type DivineProspect, Leviticus 19:27, or beard or whatever, and you'll see I actually touched on that. It's not a sin. I don't know anybody that says it does not understand the Canaanite practice that was being referenced that we were not to follow. And it all goes back into the epic of Baal and how El mourned the death of Baal. He shaved his face bald and he disfigured his face with a flintstone knife so that his beard did not grow back. That was a Canaanite practice. That is what the text in Leviticus 19:27 is speaking against, that we are not to mar or destroy the sides of our beards or our face. And it has to do with us not keeping or following the practice or the customs of the nations that the Israelites were surrounded by. Okay. So, can you tell me what is anachronistic about this? I'm still waiting. All right. So, Yoel ben Yisrael. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. Right. I'm going to recommend a book to you. Okay. Let me recommend this book to you. All right. So you can understand that. When you look in the works of Philos of Alexandria and Josephus, Passover and unleavened bread was considered one and the same event. Do you understand? So between the evenings, on the space of the evenings, right, you have Passover, and the Passover has to be slain at twilight, transitioning into the evening of the first day of unleavened bread. Okay? So you say, how can they prepare the Pesach meal, which is to be eaten on the B14, right? So is the Passover meal eaten on the 14th day? Is it eaten on the 14th day? Or is it eaten on the 15th day in the evening, which begins that first day of unleavened bread? That's my question to you. When is Pesach meal eaten? Is it eaten on the 14th day, or is it eaten on the evening of the 15th day? If you want that answer, Exodus 12 is going to be your answer. So I'm trying to find out where you're trying to get at in this passage. Where are you trying to get in this passage? How does this have to do with verse 17? Psalm 51. All right. Let me answer your question while I wait for Joel to give me some more context in regards to what he's saying. I want to address that for you, sis. I don't want to leave you out there without an answer. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27. And then I'm going to show you. See, I'll be giving you breadcrumbs to go and research yourselves, but I'm going to I'll just tell you. I'll just help you out, sis. No problem. All right. So let me go there for you real quick. All right. Psalm 51. Let me bring it up. I'm sorry. Leviticus 19:27. Let's bring it up. All right. Do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. You must not make any cuts in your bodies for the dead or put tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. Okay. Now remember, he was telling them, do not follow the customs of the nations, right? In the land. Right? You go to Leviticus chapter 20, verse 23, and it says, you shall not walk in the customs of the nations, which I'm casting out for you, for they did all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. I hated them. I detested them. Leviticus 18:3, you must not follow their statutes, practices, or customs. Deuteronomy 18:9, when you come into the land which the Lord your God gives you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practices of these nations. So what was these nations practicing? Okay. Let's see if I can pull it up for you. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is from the Epic of Baal. Baal was found dead there in the fields of Shekel Mehmet in the land of Debir. The news reaches the ears of El, father of Shunem. Thereupon the God of mercy goes down from the throne, sits on the footstool, and from the footstool sits on the earth. He pours the ashes of grief on his head, the dust of wallowing on his pate. For clothing he is covered with a double cloak. He roams the mountain in mourning. Yea, through the forest in grief, he cuts cheek and chin. He lacerates his forearms. He plows his chest like a garden, like a veil. He lacerates his back. He lifts his voice and shouts, Baal is dead. Woe to the people of Dagon's son. Woe to the multitudes of Hathar Baal. I shall go down into the earth. Now, there are other translations of this, right? When you learn the Ugaritic, you can probably begin to translate it yourself. But the focus is cutting the cheek and chin, lacerating the forms. You know when it says, marring your beard, and then it says, don't make no cuttings in the flesh for the dead? It is talking about a Canaanite practice that we see here in this myth called the Epic of Baal, or the Baal cycle. So he shaves his beard, and other translations we'll see shaves his beard, bald, his face bald, and then he cuts his face from chin to cheek, and he disfigures his face so his beard doesn't grow back. And then he cuts himself in the flesh as a form of mourning. That's why they're all together. You don't just isolate verse 27. You got to marry it with 28 because it goes back to talk about this particular practice. Okay? So hopefully, my bad, Psalms. I know you do. My bad, King. Hopefully this answers your question, my brother. Let me know if that answers your question. So I'm waiting on Yoel. He says Abib at evening, right? Okay. Let me bring this up. This is going to be the last thing, and I'm going to be out after this, all right? And thank you for the questions, family. I appreciate it, right? All the questions is helpful for other people who may be afraid to ask them, right? And now we are able to address them as a family, as a community, right? Okay. All right. Verse 5, Exodus chapter 12, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. So it's not just sheep, okay? And you shall keep it until the 14th day of this month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lambs at twilight. There's an interesting word there, the word being there, which means a spatial element. In between, in the space of, right? So at twilight, what does that mean? The lamb is slain between the evenings on the 14th day. The evening that brings in that day and the evening that ends that day, it is slain at twilight. And it's different types of twilight. Okay? 3 types: civil, nautical, and astronomical. Civil, this means it's starting to get dark, but you can still see. Astronomical means it's getting dark and you can barely see. Nautical means it's getting dark, you can barely see. Astronomical is dark and you can't see anything in front of you within a few feet. You can't see it outside in the dark, right? With no artificial light. They're not eating it on the 14th day. They're killing it in between the evenings or at twilight on the 14th day. Then they're taking that blood and they put it on a doorpost, because going into that evening, right, they shall eat the flesh that night. That's important. Roasted on the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, they shall eat it. Unleavened bread and bitter herbs. That's why it's called the first day of unleavened bread, because you eat unleavened bread that day and there's no yeast in your house. Therefore, that evening portion that begins the full day of the 15th day, which is the first day of unleavened bread, that evening portion after the 14th day consummates, during that transitionary period from light to night, or from day to night, light to dark, that small period of time where you slay the lamb, take the blood, spread it, and then you shall eat it that night, which is the first day of unleavened bread, roasted on the fire with unleavened bread, bitter herbs, they shall eat it. You're not eating that on the 14th day. You're eating that on the first day of unleavened bread. You're killing it on the 14th day, but then you eat it that next day, which is the 15th day. That begins in evening. A Hebrew day begins at evening. Are you following, my brother? Okay. Let me show something, right? Exodus 12, verse 29. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants. Remember, the reason why they put the blood on the doorpost is because the angel of death is coming at night, the evening portion of the first day of unleavened bread, which is the 15th day, not the 14th day. Okay. And it says, then he summoned Moses and Aaron by night and said, up, go out from among my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go serve the Lord. And you have, as you have said, take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone and bless me also. The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we shall all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls, being bound up in their cloaks and on their shoulders. And the people of Israel had done as Moses told them, but they had asked the Egyptians for silver and gold, jewelry, and for clothing. And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And so that they let them have what they asked. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. And the people of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. A mixed multitude also went up with them, and very much livestock, both flocks and herds. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough that they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. The time that the people of Israel lived in Egypt 430 years, at the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the hosts of the Lord went from out of the land of Egypt. It was a night of watching by the Lord to bring them out of the land of Egypt. So this same night is a night of watching kept to the Lord by all the people of Israel throughout the generations. Now, here is the interesting question. The first day of unleavened bread, which is the 15th day of the month of Aviv, right? It's supposed to be a Shabbat. You're supposed to rest on that day portion from sunrise to sunset. Now, when we want to look at the Shabbat that was established in Shemot chapter 16, which comes much later, right? When did they leave out of Egypt? Did they leave during that day portion of the 15th day, which technically is supposed to be a day of rest? Let's get that. Let's get that. Is my screen still sharing? Oh, I think I cut it off. Hold on. Okay, I got you, Seth. No problem, my brother. No problem, Yoel. No problem. You know your stuff, but you asked this question, and I just want to address it for you. And again, I just speak passionately. I don't mean no harm. You know what I mean? See, my brother, I have much love for you. I don't mean no harm. This is just how I speak. I mean, this is how a lot of New Yorkers speak, right? We just talk with our hands. We talk emphatically. This is just how we talk. Be passionate, all right? So don't take any way that I speak. Don't take no offense to it. This is just how I speak, very strongly, assertive, very passionately, all right? Okay. So, man, I just forgot where was I going at? Oh, I know I was getting at. Man, let me find it. Hold on. All right, let me not forget where I'm trying to go. I know exactly where I'm going. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23, okay? Leviticus chapter 23. Okay? Verse 4. These are the appointed feasts of the Lord, the holy convocation which you shall proclaim at the time appointed for them in the first month. On the 14th day of the month at twilight is the Lord's Passover. Okay? And on the 15th day of the same month is a feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work, but you shall present a food offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the seventh day is a holy convocation. You should not do any ordinary work. So it's a Shabbat. You're supposed to rest on that day. The Israelites didn't do no work because they didn't even prepare their meals. They left in haste, the text says. So when did they leave? Interesting. Let's get something real quick. Let's get something real quick, all right? Since we're here. Let's do this. All right. Verse 13, chapter 13. Okay. Verse 4. Today in the month of Aviv, you are going out. Let's go to verse 6. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the seventh day, there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen with you, and no leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory. You shall tell your son on that day, this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. And it shall be to you as a sign on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand, the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. This is where that custom of tefillin comes from. Okay. You shall therefore keep this statute as it is appointed from you year to year. Okay. Now watch this. Verse 19. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Sukkoth and encamped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they may travel by day and night. The pillar of the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, and did not depart from before the people. So now when the people set out to leave, they had to see, because their journey began when it was day portion, so that that pillar of cloud can be there for them, right, during the day, and then that evening a pillar of fire was there to guide them by night. So when they left on that 15th day, they more than likely left right before that twilight period. They began their journey, because when you see where they journey, right, from Sukkoth, right, they moved on from Sukkoth. So remember, they left from Pi Ramses and went from Pi Ramses to Sukkoth, and then they moved from Sukkoth and encamped at Etham. This is why I say it's important to have a Bible atlas. Why? Because you get to see where these things are geographically. And then how long on a foot trek would it take for us to get there? Now, you know, some GPS systems, you can choose walking and it'll tell you how to get from here to here if you're just walking, right? So also that amount of time to travel factors in as a part the time of the day. And when do people groups travel? Do they typically travel at night, during the day? Do they typically travel by themselves, as a company, in a group? So I don't see how anything that we're reading here is disjointed or disjunctive from what we're reading in Matthew chapter 26, unless there's something in particular that you are pointing me to, my brother. Right? Dennis, email it to me and I'll take a look at it. Email it to me. No problem, Yoel. I actually did a lecture on this, Yoel. Matter of fact, let me give you this part of the lecture that I did on this particular subject matter. I did a lecture. Let me get it for you. It's not part 3. Let me see if I did it here. You know, I'm just going to give you the I'm just going to drop the links for it there. I can't find the timestamp. I think it's in part 1, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm giving all of them to you here. And if you want that source from Josephus, let me give you a book. Let me give you a book reference. You can just request it for me and I can send it to you. Or when you sign up for the Patreon, if you're on the Patreon already, you could just take a look for it. But let me share the book with you on the screen, and then I'm gonna close out. Let me get the book for you real quick. Here it is. All right, this book right here. Okay, it's called Calendrical Variations in Second Temple Judaism. Okay, now let me find for you. You can see the table of contents. All right, so you can see what I'm talking about. Right. So here it is. In this book, right, on page 144 to 155, you'll see the references to Josephus and Philo regarding Passover and unleavened bread. As you can see, they have them interconnected. Okay. So here's the source right there. Right. I'm gonna show you it again, like page 144 to page 155. Okay, but let me show you the cover of the book again so you can see. It's called Calendrical Variations in Second Temple Judaism. New Perspectives on the Date of the Last Supper Debate by Stefan Solmier, right? They also touch on that verse in Matthew 26 that you referenced. This book is 297 pages, not that bad. It's an excellent read, invaluable for anybody trying to calculate the ancient reckoning of time. Okay? So hopefully that helped. If you need the source, just email me, Yoel, and I'll send it to you, King. Otherwise, go on to Patreon and see it. So for everybody else who's left here, I'm closing out right now at 2 hours and 35 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I appreciate your support. Thank you for the super chat donations. Thank you for the new people that just signed up for the Patreon. Thank you for people who patronize our lot set and who also place their orders for the t-shirt. I appreciate all your support. Thank you for your prayers, for contributing to the chat, for just being here and comradeship. Again, if I offended anybody, I apologize. That was not my intent. But if you're offended by what I said and it's the truth in Yah's word, then you got to take it up with my boss. You know, you got to deal with him. Don't shoot the messenger. You got to deal with the Most High. That's just how it works. All right. But I do, and I say, and I do all in love and ahab. I love all of y'all. I thank y'all for your support. I pray if I can continue to serve in any capacity that there is a need, let me know. Shoot me an email at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. All right. All the other pertinent data is in the scroll description at the bottom of this screen. Everything we mentioned earlier as a reference to things, if you want to acquire it from us or need any assistance from us, all of that is in the description below. And if there's anything else I can help you guys with and serve any other capacity, let me know by shooting an email. Make sure you guys fill out that survey. The link is in the description below so we can gauge where you're at, what you're looking for, what you're trying to get by working and dealing with this ministry, connecting to this ministry, watching the stuff that we put out so we can help and assist. All right. So I love you guys. Thank you so much. Shout out to Rise Official in the building. ABC 1908. Cool story, bro. Demetrius Easley. Shalom King. Yoel Ben Yisrael. Shalom Seth Upright. Shalom Seeking the Truth Ministry. Shalom. Shalom. Let me see. Is anybody else that is here that I missed? Truth Seeker. Shalom. Sign of the Times TV HQ. Shalom. And I think that is everybody. I think that's everybody. All right, family. Yason, shalom to you as well, King. All right, my brother Emmanuel and Yawasop, shalom. Love you guys as well. Thank you for your support. I love you, family. Let's keep praying for one another, be each other's keeper. And if anybody wants to speak to me one-on-one in a private consultation, the link is in the description below as well. All right, I do what I can to serve and to help. All right, but also keep me in prayer. Next week is going to be a very interesting transition for me. So please keep me in prayer about that and all the endeavors that I embark upon to raise the revenue to match the revenue coming in from the community so we can imbue it into other projects that will bring greatness to the people that Yah has in this nation and to bring honor and respect back to his name. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We could do it collectively as a team. Those of you watching this on the replay, Shabbat Shalom. I love y'all as well. Thank you for watching all the way up to this 2 hour, 38-minute marker. We appreciate all your support, and I'll speak to you guys again soon. Peace and shalom, family. Shalom.